China.
For 2,000 years, Tibetans were independent and free.
But since 1950, Tibet has suffered the worst torments in its history.
This is Tsurpu Monastery in central Tibet, center of the main school of Tibetan Buddhism, the Karma Kagyu.
In 1966, it was completely destroyed. None of its 900 monks survived here.
But in 1980, 5 monks began to rebuild it. Life returned to the ruins. Despite Chinese repression, a new generation of young Tibetans is eager for the teachings for which their relatives were murdered.
In the West, there are people of high intelligence and great knowledge. They have invented things capable of obliterating the whole Earth and things that fly in space. But about life after death, and where they will be born again, they know nothing. They have absolutely no conception. But Buddhism has developed teachings which enable a person to determine his future reincarnation.
Reincarnation is a fact for every Buddhist. This explains why they place such importance on a properly performed Powa ceremony.
The corpse is brought by the relatives to their chosen monastery in order to give the deceased proper guidance through the stage between death and rebirth.
The more a person makes his spiritual welfare dependent on external and material things, the more difficult it will be for him to leave his body in death.
The Powa ceremony helps to release consciousness from this fatal bond and makes it receptive to the state without space, time, or substance.
Once a link is established between the ceremonial master and the dead person, the master begins to invoke and instruct the deceased's consciousness.
Now it becomes evident to what extent a person cultivated serenity and altruism during his lifetime.
Last month, our 20-year-old daughter died giving birth to her first child. We made as many offerings for her as we could. We invited lamas to rituals and took her to the monastery for a good Powa. We were very glad that all these ceremonies could be performed once more. They were particularly important for her because she had such a short life and had no chance to prepare herself for death. Her baby died soon afterwards. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time we were so glad to be able to help them. Before, we were not allowed to perform Powa ceremonies.
Hey! 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 Hey!
That was the final call to the consciousness to leave the dead body, which now, like all material things, has reached the boundaries of its temporal span.
Everything non-material, such as our consciousness, or, in other terms, our self, our mind, our soul, and our psyche, is immortal. It transcends the death of the body, and yet remains transitory.
The death of the body is particularly agonizing for those who have allowed their self-esteem to depend on physical or material possessions or attributes.
Buddhists seek their true nature by understanding the nature of mind and orient themselves towards spiritual qualities.
This is why death to them is a release from oppressive corporeality.
Buddha teaches that all suffering is ultimately the result of striving for material phenomena.
This kind of burial makes one acutely aware of the transitory life of the body.
The terror diminishes through the conviction that the consciousness survives.
Western burial ceremonies tend to suppress our awareness that the body is ephemeral. We leave it to the worms to dispose of the useless shell, and we take good care to hide the process under flowers and earth.
Here, the same process takes place, but openly.
Tibetans find sky burial perfectly natural. They care less about what happens to the worn-out physical husk than about their future state of consciousness.
For them, it is more important to have understood the nature of mind before death overtakes them, and to attain the spiritual qualities which will ensure their rebirth in favorable circumstances.